Well, thank you very much for the introduction. Actually, we can go straight to questions and answers. I'm just kidding. And thank you very much for inviting me. I never dreamt in my life that I would stand in front of a Jewish crowd 2013 sharing my life story, because obviously my life started out in a very, very different way. And even today, I struggle a little bit how to explain something that my son first asked me to explain to him. Because he asked me once, he was 14 years old, he's now 23, he asked me, "Abba, mi Saba sheli," Father, who is my grandfather? And that's where the story started, to give an answer, a true answer to your own son. And from that on, I gave answers to others who had questions. Because there were questions, and there are questions. How can it be that I am an Israeli citizen, I'm an American citizen now too, served in the Israeli Defense Forces, I was an officer, and on the other hand, my father, as you heard, was a highly decorated World War II tank commander and an ardent supporter of the Nazi system. The story in between is, of course, my life. And my life brought me where I am right now here. And how did it start? Well, it always starts with where were you born and what time you were born. And I was born in a beautiful city in Germany called Bamberg in 1958. Anybody ever been in Germany? I hope you were there or you're planning to be there. It's a beautiful city in the south of Germany, nestled between Würzburg and Nuremberg. One of those picture book cities that you see in tourist brochures. Old churches, old buildings, a beautiful cathedral in the downtown area, each hill crowned by a church. Therefore Bamberg is called the Rome of the North, a very Catholic city, once was the center of the Holy Roman Empire in the 11th century. And in this city full of history, I grew up in with the sense of history. And we were taught as children to be aware about the history in that city. And so I learned everything from very early age on, as I remember in elementary school, about what queen and kings and bishops and noblemen served and lived in the city. But one thing I noticed as a child very early on, that certain things the adults wouldn't talk about. And it had to do with the recent past. And the recent past was present. Not because Bamberg was destroyed by the war. There were hardly any signs of a war in Bamberg. Bamberg was left untouched. American bombers did not bomb Bamberg because of the history of the town. But we as children knew that something happened, because not because we taught about it, but we talked about it. We knew about a war. That's what we knew, that there was a war called the Second World War. And the war was present. Because there were about 15,000 American soldiers and family members living in the outskirts of the city, and American military police patrolled the city in the nighttime, not because of the Germans, but because of drunken GIs. And we as children understood, and I understood, if there was a war and there were foreign soldiers, we didn't win that war, because in the war there are winners and losers. And so I asked my father, of course, the question, what happened in that war and what did you do in that war? What was your role, out of curiosity? And initially my father was very reluctant to talk about it, until he shared with me his life story on long walks that we had on Sunday afternoon in the forest. He was a hunter, an outdoor person. He taught me how to handle a rifle, how to shoot, how to fish. And we spent a lot of time together, quality time as father and son, and he shared with me the story that he was born into a family of warriors, as he said. My grandfather fought as an officer in the Franco-Prussian War in 1870. My grandfather fought in the First World War, an officer against the French. And my father, he told me, he served as a tank commander under the command of the famous General Guderian, the father of the German Blitzkrieg, and served from the September the 1st, 1939, from the invasion of Poland, until the bitter end, until April 1945, under the command of General Guderian, and rose very quickly to the ranks of a major, one of the youngest officers in the German army, in that rank, and became a war hero for his accomplishment on the Eastern Front, where he participated, or actually liberated, as he said, or conquered, as we know it, a city on the way towards Moscow called Orel, and was awarded the Knight's Cross by a man, as you heard, he adoringly referred to as his Führer. And so, of course, for me, my father was a hero. Naive thinking of a child, my father was a hero, reinforced by the message that his friends and his old comrades who came to our house at least once a year to celebrate the good old times at the old comrade meetings, and they reinforced that message that your father is a hero and you should look up to him. And so I did. On the other hand, my mother told me a completely different story though.